Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hijab Apwar Kwali and I am a student of Rahan School Korangi campus. I am studying in class 7 and my class name is the Future Navigators. So today we have the very honorable and grateful guest whose name is Miss Liz. So let's go and about herself and about her life journey. So hello ma'am, who are you?
Hi, and good afternoon. It's nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Okay ma'am. So ma'am, before moving on the question, please introduce yourself.
Uh, I'm actually known as Miss Liz. I'm the lady that created the Miss Liz's tea parties and tea times in 2015. I'm a speaker, advocate, author, uh, human rights advocate, peace ambassador. I'm a bit of everything. Yeah, I'm just an everyday woman that's on a mission to make a difference with tea. When I say tea, I mean teaching educational awareness that we use words and storytelling to make a difference in the world.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So, ma'am, my first question from you, what inspired you to become an advocate for survivors of sexual, domestic, and neglect abuse?
Uh, what inspired me to be an advocate was that I'm a survivor. I wanted to get my story out there and I wanted to help other survivors out there. By sharing our stories, we actually do heal the world one story at a time. So.
Your story.
Yeah, my story of abuse. I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse uh, from the age of 4, and then I was married at 18, and I was in a domestic abuse survivor of 16 years of marriage, and now I'm an advocate and speaker for others out there who can have a voice and who can share their stories as well.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, can you share your personal journey of survival and healing?
My personal journey started at the age of 4. The age that I was abused. My grandma gave me a cup of tea, and my story has been going on since then. I'm an overcomer of domestic abuse, neglect, parent alienation. I have a really strong story, and you can find it in a lot of books in on Amazon with the Sacred Hearts Rising series. Also with Miss Liz's TEA books, you can find my story there. The journey for me has been just to keep moving, just to be different and stand on my story, not in my story.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, how has being a mother of four shaped your perspective on advocating for change?
Being a mother of 4, well, my children are all adults now, so they're no longer children, but I only started my advocacy after my children became adults. I was able to get out there and speak and bring awareness. And my children have been my biggest encouragement of just pushing me through and saying, Mom, you can do this and share the story, get it out there. But being a mother of 4 is hard, especially being a single mom. Even when you're married, you're a single mom as well. There's different types of parenting. My husband was in and out of jail. He was really not there in the picture, and when he was in the picture, he was very abusive. So it was really hard. But my children are strong children, and being a mom is a hard job. There's no book out there. There's no instruction book out there. Everybody has their own story.
Okay, ma'am, great, and thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, what are some key messages or lessons you want to share with other survivors?
The key message that I want to give to all survivors is that you can get out. You can have a safe life. You don't have to stay in the situation. Find a support system, whether it's a neighbor, a family member, somebody that's in the community. Go to an event if you can. You know, Find resources where you can get out there and you can make that difference too. We don't need to stay in abusive relationships. We're worth way more than any of those words that the abuser gives us. uh, just be you. Stand on your story. Don't stand in it, because when you stand in your story, you're being the victim, you're blaming, you're making the excuses, you're finding ways not to leave. Stand on it. Get strong and just take that step, that one step, and be out there and open the door, because your life matters too.
That's great. And thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, what resources or sport networks have been most helpful to you in your journey?
Resources for me have been services that deal with what I've went through. So domestic violence services, shelters, counseling services, groups, getting involved in the community, getting volunteering, uh, just getting to know that it's okay to make a life for yourself. Um, there's so many different resources, so many services out there, that it depends on your story. Each story is different, so I can't say that the service that I use is going to be the service that you want to use or that is good for you. Find the service and find that one person that you can turn to. When we only have that one person that can help us with our wellness plan and get us safe, it makes all the difference in the world.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, how do you cope with the challenges of being a survivor while raising a family?
Ah, that's a hard one, because my children were put into foster care, because of domestic violence. Um, so I was alone most of the time after I left my ex husband. Uh, Coping, it's just pushing yourself one day at a time. If that means you're having a day, if you're crying, but you're still surviving. But you got to learn to live instead of just survive, because survivors are not just out there to survive. They're out there to live. They're out there to make a life. They're out there to make a difference. Uh, so coping, we all have our coping skills. For me, it was writing. I was able to release and cope with writing. For others, it might be music, it might be art, it might be speaking. It varies for everybody. For me, it's writing. So I just enjoy writing. I like to write poetry. I like to write songs. I like to write in books and collaborate and share stories. So it's different for everyone out there.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, in what ways can we break the silence around abuse and encourage survivors to speak out?
Ways that we can break the silence is just stand up and be that voice. And, as a survivor, we had to stand up so many times. I know for myself, I had to stand up. Every time I got a beating, I had to stand back up. I had to get back up. You know, Ways that we can encourage each other is pay attention, listen to the red flags. If you see something, I'd rather make a report saying that you think that I'm being abused than not report it, because you might be saving a life by just speaking up and saying, you know what, something's off with that family, something's off with that woman or that man, because there are men out there that are being abused too. So just pay attention to the signs and be that support system. Not the support system just to gossip about the person, but to actually make a difference and make that person feel like they're wanted as well, because that's what a survivor wants. They want to be heard and seen.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, what strategies do you recommend for preventing abuse and neglect within families?
uh, do family activities, have conversations, have that open discussion, talk about feelings, emotions. uh, you know how to prevent abuse. I there's there's not one way that we can prevent it, because it's going to happen everywhere. It's a global pandemic, abuse. There's a lot of broken people in the world. There's a lot of people that live with trauma, and with trauma comes hurt, and hurt people. That's just the way it is. But have that open conversation, with your family members. If something's feeling off, or something your family members doing with you, or your friends, or your teachers, or whatever, bring it to a voice that's going to listen, and that's how we can prevent abuse. But speaking up, having these open conversations, having these interviews like this one, is a prevention. We can prevent people by having stories told, by having our voices heard. I think it's really incredible what you guys are doing with these interviews, because you're bringing the awareness, and because you are the young voice, you're bringing the awareness to the new generation that abuse is not acceptable. You know that nobody at any age should be abused, no matter how old you are, young, uh, youth, elder. Nobody should be getting abused. I think by just being better community members, by getting involved in the community, getting engaged, getting out there. Because isolation is number one key that something is not right in a home.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So my next question from you: how can communities better support survivors and create a safe environment for them?
Better support system for survivors is start working with them. Start having services that actually work with the survivors. Besides the support and share, actually get them involved in the services so that they can see where a survivor can tell you what they're going through, what they've been through, the signs to look for. There's a lot of education out there about prevention, but there's nobody working with survivors. And I think that's where we need to start working, is working with somebody who has actually lived it, because when someone lives it, then they can give you the experience. Somebody who hasn't lived through it cannot give you that experience. They can only talk book smart. They can only talk the education, the classes, the lessons that they've learned. So start working with the survivors. I myself got engaged. Um, I got engaged with my community over here and tried to find out what services are out there for survivors, and getting engaged and saying, okay, so what services do you offer survivors? Is it only a support and share? Do you have aftercare? Do you have pre-care? You know, there's different ways of bringing it to your community and making a difference.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So my next question from you: are there any specific legislative changes or policies you believe are necessary to address their issues?
Oh, there's lots. The list is long. Uh, Justice system needs to be fixed. It's broken. The system is broken. There's a lot of broken systems out there. They put band-aids on everything. We need to take the band-aid off. Um, there's a lot of changes, but the thing is, they make a legislation and they don't follow the legislation. They're the ones breaking it. They're breaking the policies. They put the policies in place, and then 5 years later, the policy changes. You can't be doing that. If you want survivors to trust the services and trust the organizations out there, you have to stay key on your mission and your vision. Stop changing it because your survivor is putting up their guard walls. As a survivor myself, that's what I do. When I see a service or an organization that's changing the whole mission and vision, I'm just like, this is not for me. It's almost like that something's going to change. Get ready, be on guard. And that's how we live on eggshells as survivors, is we don't know when it's coming, right? And if you're changing the legislations and the policies, you're putting us on guard again. So that's exactly what we're living on eggshells again.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So my next question from you: what advice would you give to someone who suspects abuse but is unsure how to help?
Just reach out, just ask. I'd rather a person would rather be upset and say, you know what, how dare you ask me that? But if that question saves a life, why not ask it? When I was going through my abuse with my ex-husband, I wanted my family and I wanted people in my community to say, oh my God, there's something not right. Can we help her? I would have been mad at them, of course, because I would have thought they were breaking my family up. But at the end of the day, I know that they were looking out for me. They were looking out for my life. And I think that's where we got to stop being so judgmental and so on guard, like with others, and be so defensive. um, but we're also learning to survive. And again, surviving and living are two different things. Surviving is just getting through the day. Living is actually getting out there and making a difference for yourself. Whether it's getting out of bed and taking a shower, that's living. You know, going to the store by yourself, learning to finance your budget by yourself, get your independence. And just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you can't have your independence. Everyone should have their own independence.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, how can we educate children about consent, healthy relationships, and personal boundaries?
Education, put it in the school systems. Put the healthy consent in the school systems. Educate the children on what healthy relationships are. There's so much in this education systems right now that is confusing children. And I think we need to stop that. We need to take a step back, and we need to go back almost 20 years where we had life skills, where we had classes where we were learning on how to prevent things, how we were able to speak up, and not, uh, have public speaking events. We don't have public speaking anymore in school. And that scares me because that was a time where people could actually express their concerns or where they wanted to see change in the world. So we need to bring the voices back, and we need to get it in the schools. We need to start educating through the schools and through the homes, because the community can only do so much for a family, can only do so much for a child, but it needs to start in the home and then in the schools.
Amazing, and thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, what signs should individuals look for if they suspect someone is in an abusive situation?
Body language. Watch for body language, because sometimes a survivor cannot say, "Help me." Watch how a body changes, how they feel tense, and that, pay attention. If there's somebody that's winking or somebody that's like putting their hand up, there's signs out there. If somebody is moving their chair away from somebody because they're too scared to be close to that person, there's a lot of signs out there that you can see. And pay attention to the body language, because body language tells you a lot more than a voice does.
Okay, that's great, and thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, how can we reduce the stigma associated with being a survivor and seeking help?
That's a good question. And as soon as anyone out there finds out how we can break that stigma, please let me know, because there is a big stigma. It's like if somebody says that they're a survivor, it's almost like we got some kind of virus on us. That people don't want to be around us. They're scared to be around us because they're maybe scared that the abuser will come after them and their family. You know, uh, but yeah, the stigma is really bad with survivors. It shouldn't be. There shouldn't be any stigma there. We're fighting for our lives just like the next person. And, we really need to just stop being so judgmental. We need to be open and honest with everyone, and just be that voice, be that difference. But if you find what can break this stigma, please let me know, because I live with that stigma every day of my life.
Okay, amazing, and thank you for your answer. So, my next question from you, what role does self care play in the recovery process for survivors?
The role of self care is deeply important. It's not being selfish, it's taking care of you. uh Say, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, you know what, this is not for me. uh Self-care is taking care and respecting yourself, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self existence. Self-care plays a really deep role in recovery, because until you can accept yourself and love yourself, not because someone else tells you that you're lovable or that they love you, you have to learn to love yourself, and that starts with self-care. And self-care is not a bubble bath or hot tea or anything. It's actually taking care of you and your wellness.
Okay, ma'am, thank you for your answer. So my next question from you: can you share any success stories of survivors who have overcome their traumatic experiences?
Oh, there's so many out there. Everyone has their own success story, right? Everyone has overcome some form of trauma. And survivors doesn't just need to be domestic violence or sexual abuse. There's different types of trauma out there. There's addictions, there's religion. There's so much trauma out there that survivors are fighting for their lives in so many different ways. Um, yeah, it's hard to answer that one.
Okay. So my next question from you: what initiatives or projects are you currently involved in to promote change and inspire others?
The project that I'm involved in is my mission. It's Miss Liz's Tea Times, and what we're doing is we're bringing stories to the table, real life teas. We're not serving a beverage; we're serving their story, and through their story, we're sharing through their words and the journey that they've overcome. And everyone has a different way of surviving, whether it's writing children's books or adults books or acting in a movie, be a fashion. There's so much ways of expression. uh, you know Abuse is in our face, and sometimes it's right in our face and we're too blind to see it. There's so much that's going on that we put a blind eye to it. um, but yeah, Miss Liz's Tea Times, you can check me out and you can see the project that I'm doing. I'm also creating the Miss Liz's Tea Ambassador program, where we'll be bringing back recipes and traditions and cultures and trying to understand one another as human beings. I think we've lost the boat, and people are just so fast to judge what they don't understand. So you can check out Miss Liz. I'm doing a lot of different projects. I'm working with a lot of different community members, a lot of programs and organizations out there, orphanages. I'm working on many projects through Miss Liz's Tea Time.
Okay, thank you for your answer. So my second last question: what message do you want to convey to society at large about the importance of addressing these issues?
Just to be yourself. The message that I have is just serve you. When you serve you, then you can serve your family, then you can serve your community, you can serve your country. But it all starts with you. You have to start with yourself. Until you take care of yourself, you can't serve anyone else. You can't make a difference if you're not taking care of yourself. Like my grandma used to tell me, if you don't take care of your cup, you can't take care of anybody else's cup. So it all starts with you and it ends with you.
Okay, thank you for your answer and beautiful advice. So my next question, last question: how can individuals and communities actively contribute to the cause and support survivors on their path to healing and empowerment?
One way that they can contribute is create events, get community involved, get different countries involved. Don't only focus on your country that you live in. I'm in Canada, and I'm working with you right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can find ways to support and engage with survivors and make a difference, and just keep bringing that voice. Create different activities. Get speaking, get out there speaking. Do some walks together. Do a dance party. Create a event celebration. We celebrate weddings and funerals, but we don't celebrate life. We don't celebrate the journeys within us. Get creative and just make a difference that way. Uh, And this is how we can make a difference with everybody, is when we start just getting involved in our communities, getting engaged with people and asking questions and being different.
Okay, thank you for your answer, and thank you so much for sharing this some insightful knowledge. So, lastly, I invite you my school when you come in Pakistan, come in Karachi, and visit our school, Arihan School, Karangi campus.
Well, I'd be honored to. Whenever I get to Pakistan, I would love to meet all of you guys. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me and having me a part of your programs and getting that prevention and education out there, because education and awareness is key to change. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Okay, okay, inshallah. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye, dear.